So good morning. Welcome again, everybody, to Coffee Talks, or should I say good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. So yes, again, we have some wonderful people from wonderful places. Let me introduce myself. I'm Alka Patel. I'm based here in London. I'm a Heartfulness trainer and I'm a teacher. So please come along and introduce yourselves.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Talks. My name is Andrew. I'm a teacher. I'm also a photographer, and I'm also a heartfulness practitioner. Yes, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Alka Patel, for this chance. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about in store for you viewers. And let me pass over to my colleague to introduce himself. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you, Alka. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, everyone in this meeting. My name is Aloyce Urassa. I'm a youth leader for health. I'm a student in health laboratory sciences, a global health advocate, and a heartfulness practitioner. It's my joy joining this coffee talk this morning. Thank you. I think I have the best coffee from Kilimanjaro, Tanzania.
Good morning, everyone. Hi to Andrew and Aloyce, and of course, dear Alka. It's really lovely to be with you all here today. And I'm really looking forward to the discussion. I was just telling Andrew I was in Kenya 2 years ago, and it was the most magical experience. And I just can't wait till it's possible to go back. Not for a while, but eventually, hopefully. So let's get going.
Yeah, sure. So please could you put up the first slide for us, Aloyce? So for everybody's information, this article was taken from the Heartfulness magazine, chosen by our youth from Africa. And I'm sure Andrew didn't mention this, but you're from Kenya and you're from Tanzania. So the article was written, and I'm glad you've chosen this because something I want to add later on. So once the article comes up, it's the heart-based leader. Thank you, Aloyce. And again, this article was from this month's edition, which is May. It was written by one of our great heartfulness leaders based in America, Victor Canaan. So if you could put it to the next slide, Aloyce, please. And as you can see, it's our Victor Canaan sharing his ways of how we should lead and the essential qualities for excellence in leadership. So, young ones, I say this with my big heart, please share your first slide and come along and share.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much, Alka. So this is what I brought out from the magazine. Heart-based leadership is a qualitative approach to engendering the lasting and well-being of those with whom we surround ourselves. It's servant leadership. So from this, what I resonate most is the whole aspect of servant leadership. There's a lot. I see a lot of leaders that command a lot of respect in terms of how they lead. Like for example, I think the best example of a leader who came close to this was, especially in Africa, I would say Nelson Mandela, because he never really thought about. Okay, he went through a lot in terms of his life story, for the struggle of what he did and all that, and for him to take the needs of his people first and not go out and maybe go against the oppressors or those who chained him in prison it says a lot. And yeah, and in terms of, and of course in heartfulness, it's wonderful to be a servant, because that's what a leader is supposed to be. He's not a person who has to make his presence known and make his commands or his authority. He should not rule in fear, but to rule in hope. Yeah, so that's what I resonated most with. A servant is someone, when you look at the definition of a servant, is someone who serves the needs of the particular person. Are we together? So yeah, that's what I resonated a lot with. Maybe I can pass it over to Aloyce. Aloyce, maybe can you share something briefly you resonated with this quote?
So Aloyce, are you okay if you leave it on the previous slide, the one Andrew was talking about? And would you like to add anything? Yeah, to this one, yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to add anything? Are you okay, Aloyce? Okay, so I resonated really a lot with that one.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay. Do you want to leave the slide on as well?
Yeah, okay, yeah, putting it on. So according to what Andrew has explained on heart-based leadership, that is a qualitative approach to engendering the lasting well-being of all those with whom we surround ourselves. It's a servant leadership. When you talk about servant leadership or heart-based leadership, it distinguishes us from all other kinds of leadership that we have been focusing on. One person called D. Hawker, I think one of the person quoted in the article said, if you don't understand that you are in service to the people below you, then you don't know anything about leadership. So a heart-based leader is a leader who can see the needs of these people and the needs of himself, the needs of the whole community, and does his or her best to ensure that what people need, they really get it. And through to obtain heart-based leadership, one has to be really heart-centered. One has to be really humanistic. Has to carry all the qualities of a human being. Has to carry all qualities of a real person who can be touched and who can really understand what people needs. As I was given an example of Nelson Mandela, but many other African leaders and even other leaders who have been doing great in ensuring that people obtain their basic needs effectively and not just giving out quantities or numbers of what they're doing. So it's a really quality, giving quality to people's lives.
No, fantastic. If Elizabeth can come along and add something to this, it'd be great.
Yeah. So, how do you become a heart-based leader? It's great to talk about, and it's wonderful to use examples like Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King and Desmond Tutu and others because they're there. But how do we do it? Because it's not enough that these great icons do it. And of course, it means moving to a level where you're comfortable with feelings and emotions and being in the heart and listening to the heart. So developing your intuitive capacity, developing your ability to feel others. And of course, for this, you need to develop yourself. So we can only become good servant leaders. We can only become heart-based leaders once we work on ourselves in that way. Otherwise, we're not attuned. And until we're attuned, until we can match our vibrations with the people who are leading, we're not going to be very good at it. So I think, the importance of this article is to say, guys, it's time. We've got to develop new skills. And these skills are heart-based skills. And let's do it so we can lead in a better way into the future. So that's my take on this.
No, absolutely, Elizabeth. I just want to share with you and the youth across the globe that when I was 25, I mean, many moons ago, I had the opportunity to run businesses with my husband. I felt like at the time I was thrown into it. It was my choice. But everybody was much more mature, more experienced, but it was something we were given, asked to do by the family. And I just remembered one thing my dad taught me was, if you want somebody to do something, please speak to them how you would like to be spoken to. And that was one big thing that helped me get through these. So these are little things that I'm going to share throughout our talk today. Can we move on to the next slide, Aloyce?
Yeah, I think the slides are mixed up, so I'll move to the fifth one.
Okay. Please,
Okay,
please.
So that's the quotation I got from the article after reading.
Sure. Please go ahead. Read it.
One of them is the leadership of any corporation with a setting the priorities it has in its value system. Hello, you can hear me, right?
Yeah. So what did you think of this?
Yeah, I think that despite of higher standards of life, despite of all the material prosperities that organizations and corporates have been gathering in, there's still a need to see and assess the priorities that an organization or a corporate has in its value system. We have a lot of statements, the visions, the core values, the mission, but all these are much ritualistic. In heart-based leadership, they're not. We don't just have the missions, visions, and core values, just ritualistic terminologies, but we have them being lived daily in the life, in the daily life of the organization, in daily life of the community, in daily life of a corporate. A heart-based leader in any culture is inclusive, has to be innovative, has to see what the people needs, what the really employees need. Given an example that currently, as I said, technology has changed. There's a lot of material wealth being accumulated, but still people face a lot. There's still a great depression. There's stress. People are really suffering with worrisome consequences, dissociation from families, dissociation from friends. And we come to conclusion that material success alone isn't enough to add up to our happiness and well-being. The society has pockets of a lot of material prosperities, but it's just a few people who are enjoying this cake of material prosperity. So because our body, mind, and soul are connected, it is meaningless when we lose our mental health just because we want to accumulate a lot of wealth. So the corporate culture has to, I'm talking about the organizations or companies, have to add values of which are humanistic and holistical humanistic approaches, so as to ensure that everyone improves their own life, improves the quality of their lives, apart from material well-being. Ensure that they know about the people, they feel about the people, and they do something for the people. That should be the priority, to see people prospering, to see people becoming comfortable with what they're doing, comfortable and happy with the life they're living within an organization.
Wow.
So I'd like to welcome Andrew if he has anything to add to this.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I love the aspect of how in most leaderships nowadays is more based of materialism. This is due to the fact that, of course, everyone wants to grow, everyone wants to make money, but in the long run, we lose the emotion, the heart. Yeah, the heart. That's what I would say, because it reaches a time that it becomes so complicated in life that you go to work, you can gain all the material wealth, but what is your state of being, the state of your heart? And this is where heart-based leadership comes in. In every corporate culture, of course, we're used to the traditional or how would I say, the traditional aspects of it. Go to work, go home, make money. Of course, money is really important in our aspects of life today. But in order for you to have a fulfilling job, or fulfilling life, I think it's not always money won't always bring you happiness at the end of the day. There's so much more. There's so much in terms of spirituality you can be able to grow as well. And in terms of the corporate culture, what I understand about this is the beliefs and value system the particular company or the particular organization has on its employees. It's a chain of command that is respectful, that is empathetic towards other people's emotions as well. And communication is key in this sort of setup. If you want to have a more heart-based type of leadership, it should be more of a lot of communication. I know it's human nature. It's human nature in for human beings to disagree. It's really normal. But in the long run, how you communicate your issues, if you feel this is not working for me, just communicate openly. And the environment of this corporate organization should be kind enough to listen to you, see, and just try to resolve these issues, because that's where most of us as human beings, that's where we usually have these issues in terms of conflicts and all that, because of miscommunication. So the corporate culture, so the value system of this corporate culture is really important. For me, the best example, I like using examples. For me, I'm a person who loves football. I love Liverpool Football Club, and my biggest, I'm a big fan of Jurgen Klopp, and I love the way he leads with emotion. He's not the type of manager who would just treat a player like a player. He would treat him like a human being. When maybe your son is sick, he mentions it a lot, that the world doesn't always revolve around football. You have a family, you have a home. So that's the type of leadership I admire in terms of, that's why I'm a big fan of the individual as well. Yeah. So that's what corporate culture is all about. And let me just pass it over to Alka to Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, because Andrew and Aloyce, I love this. When I was your age, doing the same to people around. This is how we should be. This is how we should do it. I always, as I was grown, it was how though, and I'm going to invite Elizabeth to this. Elizabeth, we're great at going, this is what we need to do, but how? How is the biggest player here?
Yeah, and I think the corporate world is in a stage of transition right now, because if you look at it, last century was the dying embers of the colonial culture in a way, where there were people in authority who imposed on people who were supposedly below them. There was no idea of servant leadership. It was really a very aggressive approach to leadership, you could say. And it was very hierarchical. There was no thought even of this idea of a leader standing underneath and supporting the people that they were leading in any field or another. And yet it's what the world's been crying out for hugely since at least the 1950s. And you mentioned before Nelson Mandela, you mentioned other African leaders. You can see it in the West with the 60s civil rights movement and the 60s revolutions in Europe, also in Paris. People were looking for something different. And it's taken us the last 60 years or so to start to bring that something different into mainstream corporate culture. And it's still not fully embedded, but it's far along now. We have lots of consultants who are mindfulness consultants or presencing consultants or heartfulness consultants, all working in the corporate space, trying to help corporations move to what this article is all about. People know they need it, but as Alka said, how to do it. And you know, I liked what both you, Andrew, and Aloyce said about the fact that it's about understanding your people, communicating with your people. It involves skills. You know, to be a heartful communicator, you have to have managed your own emotions, because you mentioned the fact that there is always some conflict, and conflict is good, because what is conflict? It means we have different ideas, and different ideas, when you bring them together in a harmonious way, enrich a conversation. It's only when you bring them together in a competitive way, that one is better than the other, that you end up in conflict.
Yeah.
So it's all about moving from a competitive state to a cooperative state. So that, you know, if I'm a leader in a cooperative state, what am I doing? I'm trying to have each one of the people under me that I'm leading, or above me that I'm leading, you can say better, to shine. You want everyone in your team to shine, because you understand that every human being has their own genius. And a wise leader, as one of the Heartfulness Guides, Babaji, said, a wise leader is a person who can allow each person in their team to shine while supporting their weaknesses. And it's a beautiful concept, right? That if I have a weakness and you're my leader, you don't put me down for that weakness. You think, okay, that's an area where she's not strong, so let me support, let me fill in, let me be underneath her and support her in that area where she's going to feel weak. But in the areas where I shine, you let me fly. And that takes a generosity of heart, because it means you want others to do better than yourself.
Yeah.
And when you have that, and that comes from a spiritual response to the world, because you're not, there's no ego in that. It's just like, it's like you do with your own kids. You want your kids to flourish. You want your kids to be better than you. You know, that's a normal parent's reaction, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not something that we don't know. It's something that we all know. We just got to translate that feeling of love you have as a parent for your child to every other human being on the planet. And we're done.
I mean, I love that, Elizabeth. Can I also add on to this, just stripping it back again, back to the days of when I was running businesses. So yes, I was 25 years old, and honestly, if I didn't have the small steps of helping my father run his businesses, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did. And one of the things I realized was, looking at the hierarchy, do I want to do it vertically or horizontally? And at the time, did I know the business? Not really, but the people around me knew the business. So pulled up my sleeves and I got in there with them. And they used to go, but Mrs. Patel, no, you don't do that. We'll do that. I went, no. That was my way of leading, was to go from the bottom, be with everybody. And there was no bottom. I wanted everyone to be treated the same. And today I even say the same when I'm in the school teaching. I even say to the head teacher, I said, you know, we are all the same here. It's just that your role is different from mine. And if we can all understand that, the running of that company or the whatever you're doing, business, would be more smoother. So just want to say to you, whether you're 25, 30 or 50, leading from the heart is not as hard as everyone thinks. It's knowing yourself, your true being, and having that ultimate respect for the other, that there is no higher or lower. We are all the same. We can start really believing that. We're halfway there. Let's put it onto the last slide, Aloyce.
Is it the last? I thought.
Yeah.
This
Oh,
was,
I think. Sorry, I think that's my quote. Yeah. So the next quote is which I also drew from the article, is corporate culture is always top down. It succeeds according to the authenticity of its leaders' behavior and transparent corrective actions. action when the top falters. And I resonate with this a lot. And picking from what Elizabeth has just said, when you have your weaknesses and your leader presses on those weaknesses, it puts you down. You have low self-esteem. The teamwork in the cooperation, it's more of an oppressive type of environment, I would say, because in the long run, what a good leader is supposed to do when you have weaknesses, of course, yeah, you should address them, and also try to, yeah, you should address them, but not in such a way that it will really destroy the self-esteem of this particular individual. And also it works both ways as well, even for the leader in the particular corporation. Yeah, because leaders also make mistakes. It's normal. And for a leader to make a mistake, it's usually the consequences, unfortunately, sometimes are a bit intense. Let's say, for example, if you are a head teacher, let me just work with the environment I'm used to. If you're a head teacher and unfortunately you feel that some of your colleagues is not doing the work he's supposed to do really well, so instead of okay, sorry, that's a wrong example. Now, for example, now the head teacher does something wrong. Of course, it would be difficult, especially in terms of hierarchy. You feel that how would I come to this particular individual without damaging the ego and say this is why you are wrong? I think it's a question I'd like to pose. Like, if you see your leader is making a mistake in a particular field or doing something that you feel does not resonate with you, how do you find a way to communicate with that leader in such a way that it doesn't really damage the leader's ego, but also trying to find a peaceful and corrective way to overcome those issues, yeah, I would say. But all in all, I would summarize my points is that authenticity is really important. Just be authentic and just be you as a leader or as an employee or everyone, because there's no, I know there's in corporate culture, there's usually a lot of politics within, especially because everyone wants to rise in the hierarchy, everyone wants to do something better, everyone wants to have that position or this. Yeah, so I know in most organizations, there's usually those particular politics that goes on. People really struggle to put each other down. But if the world would be a bit kinder to each other, instead of oppressing, we uplift, I think the world would be such a different place. I'd like to pass over to Aloyce to maybe say something regarding this. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still enjoying my coffee. So when we talk about a heart-based leader, and we're talking about authenticity, a heart-based leader is really authentic and has the ability and has the audacity even to find out or to explore solutions from his or her employees or his or her, the people below the hierarchy of leadership. So once we have an authentic leader, then transparency. It's a leader who can still believe in his people, believes in the cycle of the people that he or she leads. A heart-based leader an authentic leader is able to provide direction and accept corrections from the people, hence create a sense of stability or sustainability in a corporate or in an organization or in the community. A heart-based leader provides values which can be daily lived in an organization. So once when we lack a heart-based leader, we give room to wrong things and to wrong solutions into problems that could be solved by the people, because a person who is not heart-based probably perhaps will not believe that others have ideas, will not believe that others can be as innovative, and others can give a great contribution to the organization, for the organization to grow. A heart-based leader, an authentic leader, can connect to the people. And now, how can we be authentic? How can we be heart-based leaders? I think that's where the question of this talk is rooted on, the how. Well, first of all, we must be prayerfully and ask our Master, the Heavenly Father, to show us the purpose, that why we are living, to show us the purpose and the direction of how we can become leaders. Going to the last quotation, which I took from the article, a heart-based organization is flat, productive, inclusive, innovative, and provides a porous ceiling for talents to move up in an organization quietly, easily. So in order for others to prosper, in order for the world to be as stronger as we need, in order for a community to grow, and even to achieve the sustainable development goals, we need heart-based leaders. We need people who can meditate and center themselves into the heart and know that everyone deserves to live a better life. Everyone deserves to live a life with good qualities. We have to ingrain the DNA of corporate culture into our leadership styles, into our daily lives. And everyone, even the political leaders, today we have a lot of crisis about corruption. It is because we are lacking heart-based leaders in those positions. If we had heart-based leaders in our political positions, then corruptions would not be there, because once you know that this thing is there for everyone, for yourself, and for the next generations, then your heart could force you not to do a wrong thing or to destroy that thing or to misuse the resources, because you know from your heart, and your heart tells you what is really right. The heart does never lie. It's different from the mind. It's different from the way we think. It's different from the way we reason. But once we come from, the heart can really tell us the right, and can really give us the way. So I want just to say that we really have to pray hard and to accept that the reality, to accept to live the reality of what the world really needs today. We not only need the material development, we not only need to be famous, but we really need to drive changes in our societies. We need to be transparent, we need to be focused, we need to be innovative, we need to be creative, but all of this comes from a heart-based leader.
Wow. You have shared a lot. Brilliant. Can I ask you a question, young ones? I know you know, because you've really expressed yourselves, both of you today. And I'm aware you know what a heart-based leader is, but how? I'm still coming back to that how. I'm going to invite Elizabeth again, because I feel we need to share more on how we become these humans. I'm not going to say leaders, these types of people. Please come along, Elizabeth.
So what you two, Andrew and Aloyce, have expressed is absolutely spot on. So how do we arrive at that state where we can let's start with what gets in the way of it. What stops us from being heart-based in our approach? What stops us from being inclusive? It's insecurity, it's inadequacy, it's fear, it's all the negative emotions that arise because we see ourselves as separate from each other. The minute we see ourselves as separate, we start looking at comparison. And we start looking at things like FOMO, fear of missing out. And we start looking at the fact that, Andrew, if you do better than I do in a company, or Aloyce, if you do better than I do in a company, it means you do better, I do worse. There's this sense of differentiation or separateness. And we did an article with Dan Siegel for the July edition of the magazine. He's quite a famous psychologist from the US, and he's brilliant. And he calls it the pandemic of the separate self. This concept that we're all separate. Now, compare that with your African philosophy of Ubuntu, for example, which is, you know, and you probably know this fantastic example. I love it. There were some Western anthropologists who were somewhere in South Africa, and they were with a group of children, and they did this thing with them where they wanted the children to run races, running races. And so they offered to give the winners of the races sweets and prizes and stuff. And they were really stumped because when they did this, the kids all started running together, holding hands. And, you know, they got to the end together, and the anthropologists were like, but hold on a second, you know, how do we choose a winner? And they said, we can't leave our brothers and sisters behind. If I go, they go too. So it's a different mentality. And to get to this mentality where you see yourself as connected with something bigger, you actually have to get rid of the things in you that keep you separate. And what are those things? They're mostly belief systems, and they're belief systems based on experience. They're, you know, that I'm white, or I'm black, or I'm African, or I'm smart, or I'm dumb, or I'm wealthy, or, you know, all these, I'm educated, I'm, you know, all these things. We put labels on ourselves, right? And the only way to get rid of those is to do some sort of practice that removes the wiring in the brain, which comes from the heart, that keeps us into these definitions of ourselves, our identity. And of course, our identity is our ego. That's the definition of ego. So when I think of myself as a leader, for example, and I think of the person in front of me as one of my employees, already I've set up a differential. I'm the leader, that's the employee. And that means that I'm a decision maker and I tell the employee what to do. Already we have a problem. So a lot of this is deconstructing my belief systems. And for that, you know, you probably all know in Heartfulness, we have a practice called cleaning. And what it does is it allows us to deconstruct the root cause of my beliefs, the root cause of my patterns and habits that then lead to the neural circuitries that are fixed, the habits that I create. So if every day I'm removing this stuff, I'm taking another layer off, another layer, another layer. So no longer do I see Alka as a friend in London who's a teacher and whatever. Alka is just my sister. End of story. You know, it's simple, right? And when she's my sister, then whatever I have is the same as for her. There's no difference between us. So a heart-based leader has to get to this point where they do enough work on themselves, practical work on themselves, not head work, it's heart work, to say, what is it that's stopping Andrew from being my brother? Or what is it that's stopping Aloyce from being my brother? Or what is it that's stopping this employee in front of me from being my brother or sister? The thing is, I may have to make decisions as a leader, but am I inclusive of all those people in my decision making because I value them? I have mutual trust and respect with them. And ideally, I have love for every single one of them. Because when, you know, when love's there, nothing else matters. Then it's easy, right? We've just got to get there, and that takes some work, but it's not impossible. I mean, the practices are there. We just have to do them.
Yeah, agree. You know, Elizabeth, putting this into practice, it can be hard. And this is something I want to ask the boys. Back where you are, Aloyce and Andrew, what is the culture? Because in some places I've visited is, unless you speak harshly to somebody, nothing gets done. So just going back, just stripping it a little bit, what is it like for you as youth? Has that changed where you are? Is it the same? Can you just tell us a little bit more?
So thank you, Alka. Thank you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth has talked a lot of very important things, especially the Ubuntu issue. We really have to agree that we live because others lives. And the fact of the culture in our places is just almost common in every places that unless people shout, unless people shows that talk aggressively, some things do not get done. Sorry. So we really need to get out of this kind of culture. And we really need that to be heart-centered and know that whenever we speak for the people. Whenever we do for the people and not for only ourselves. Whenever, if I'm trying to accumulate some money, if I'm trying to do some business, I have to do it for the people. One of the statements relevant to the Ubuntu, as Jesus said, love thy neighbor as you love thyself. That he was trying to demonstrate leading by examples. The way I lead and the way I want to live is the way I want others have to live as well. The way I want to enjoy life, I have to understand that everybody else wants to enjoy life as well. What if I was only alone in this world? Would I become a businessman? Would I become a doctor? Then who would I treat? To whom would I be selling things? We must understand that everyone lives because others live. To be a good leader, we also have to be good followers. As Aristotle once said that he who cannot be a good follower cannot be a good leader. So if we are young people, we are still the followers of what maybe our political leader or our religious leaders are doing. If we cannot listen to them properly, if we cannot follow into what is right and properly, then we cannot be a good leader. So we must understand to live well. We must understand to criticize well. When we are criticizing, when you are speaking to people, we must know how to speak, how to humble ourselves, and how to present our ideas kindly and respectfully without destroying each one's culture. So we must inspire loyalty, and build strong relations.
Aloyce, because of time, I'm really sorry I had to cut you there, but I really want to get to the crux of this conversation. Andrew, practicing heartfulness, has that helped you to deal with what Aloyce has been saying in that community?
Yes, yes, it does. It does really help for sure. Because in practicing heartfulness, especially with meditation, it really brings a sense of peace. Yeah, because going back to the previous question on in terms of the environment or the sort of culture, in terms of them being hard on someone always gets things done. Yes, there are two aspects of it in Kenya. Yeah, there are those companies that still believe the traditional sense of I am the boss, you should follow my instruction. If there's no other way, you fall in line or I'll kick you out. And there are those company like Safaricom. In the corporate culture, the maternities, for example, the company a play group, for example, for early mothers especially. That's empathetic leadership, because the CEO thought about what about these mothers who are still early mothers, but unfortunately they'll always think about their children back at home. Yeah. So in that process, you find that of course you're still working in the office, but when you come down, you still know your child is safe and is secure where she is. And of course, our heartfulness helps me in dealing with all these issues. Yeah, to the question now where we are now, is that it gives you that sense of peace, that sense of harmony. Because at the end of the day, we may talk about it right now, but changing the system will take a long time. But it's a progressive thing. When generations change, eventually we'll get to that change. But for now, what meditation does for me, when my boss sometimes is hard on me or I'm given work that I never expected, it gives you that sense of harmony, I would say, and that connection with your spirituality as well. That's what I would say, because it's the world today. There's a lot people say nasty things about you. They, especially in the work environment. But what it gives you is you just have an hour of thoughtlessness. 30 minutes, depending how long you meditate, you just relax. You're not thinking about anything, you're not worried about anything. It's just you and it's just you and the spirituality that you want to reconnect with. Yeah, because there's so much that happens in this world. And yeah, I think that's that's what I can say on that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, Andrew, when many people ask me, what do I do in this situation at work, is happening, how do I deal with it? Now, I'm going to invite Elizabeth again, but just before I do that, I know from lots of conversations with people who have been practicing heartfulness now for over a year or two, similar to you guys, that they feel that there's some kind of internal barrier, which kind of, it's like a defense system. It's the way they speak to me. They go, it's brilliant. Elizabeth, can we just sort of speak a little bit about this?
Yeah, so I wouldn't call it a barrier, because a barrier creates a division.
Sorry. Yeah,
but it's more like a protective vibration.
That's it.
So what is this? When you're in touch with your center, your own center, which we do every morning when we meditate, when we pray, when we connect in any way, we can do it during the day or whatever. What are we connecting with? We're connecting with the source of everything, the center of everything, where we are the same with everyone else. And it's also, you can call it the soul, you can call it the center of your being, doesn't matter what you call it. The words don't matter. It's our life force. And when we're in tune with that, the differences, the divisions don't really matter. So it's like we're carrying with us our own atmosphere. So we can walk into any situation. We can walk into a work situation where, and you all know this, you all know what happens when you walk into a room where people have been arguing, right? You all know that feeling. And when you walk into that environment, you can feel the tension in the air. You know, we say in English, you can cut the air with a knife, because it's so palpable, it's so charged with anger or frustration or whatever. The vibration from the people has radiated out into that atmosphere and created that, tense, disconcerting feeling. But when you carry your own atmosphere with you, like when you meditate in the morning and you take that out with you into the day, it's like it neutralizes all that charge straight away. So you've sort of gone into a state where you're still in the world, you still feel everything. It's not that you become insensitive, I think you become more sensitive. But this bubble, if you like, of this atmosphere around you is like a cushion to what's going on. So it allows you to not be as reactive. You can take the time when something's happening. Say, like you mentioned, Andrew, people in the workplace can give you a hard time, or they can talk about you badly or whatever. But when this cushion is there, if it happens and you hear about it, instead of being raw, instead of reacting straight back like that, you pause. You go back into your center. You're able to connect with something higher. You realize what's important and you let it wash off. It doesn't impact you in the same way. And I think that's critical, because all of us face difficult stuff otherwise. And the life's not going to change. We're not going to suddenly wave a magic wand and everything becomes wonderful. But we can definitely change how we react in situations. And that's what the practice brings. Heartfulness practice brings that serenity and happiness, because, joy is the quality of the soul. And when you connect with the soul every day, you're joyful. And it makes such a difference when you're joyful. It's so wonderful.
Absolutely. Elizabeth, thank you for sharing. Welcome back, Aloyce. Listen, guys, we've got a few minutes, but what was shared just now is crucial that why we meditate, why heartfulness meditation, why the heart-based. It's not just about the leadership, great article, it's about us and those around us. And one thing I want to just really want to share is that change will happen when you change, when you make that person, it starts with you, doesn't it? And then it vibrates. So before we leave, because we are in all these different time zones here, would you like to, Andrew, Aloyce, or Elizabeth, say anything else? But all I'm going to say is great article, great choice, great discussion. So thank you. Pass it on to you.
Okay. Thank you so much. We have, I love this discussion. It really opens up your mind for sure, because people don't usually talk about this enough. Yeah, because we need that type of heartful-based leadership. The article was wonderful. It was well explained. I really learned a lot personally, and I'd like maybe one day when I get to a position where I'll be a leader as well, because we're still young. There's still time to grow. I'd like to be that type of a leader, not the leaders that I have seen traditionally. Just it's about time for us as youth to break the wheel, because this cycle has been continuing for quite a while now. When you look at now the industrial revolution, the traditional way of always formal employment, the ranks and all that. It's what we've been used to. It's, for human beings, we learn what we see. And when you see that and you see this is how the world works, automatically we think that that's how it will be, and it will always be. But eventually, there's still hope for us as the youth. There's still time. And I don't want to take so much of the time, but all we can say, Ubuntu, the aspect of togetherness. We should just come together and move in one direction, as with the heart in mind. That's what I would say. I'd pass it over to Aloyce. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, and for that great explanation. On myself, maybe I start with why do we meditate, and how does it affect ourselves and others? Meditating is the things, to me, I consider it as a kind of self-love that can radiate to others, because if you do not love thyself, then it's hard to love others. To meditate brings you to the state of balance and to the state of wishing that others have the same kind of balance. It gives a kind of adaptation and resilience power, so that you can react well to every situation. Have been being meditated for almost 4 years now. I've been meditating. I've been experiencing that kind of balance, and I've been able even to respond to many situations different from before starting meditations and prayers. So I'd like to encourage, as young people, as you said, we still have chance to change. We still have chance to change ourselves and change others. So through meditations, through accepting that we have to love each other, we have to live the sense of Ubuntu, togetherness, then we can be able to radiate that thing to others. Leadership is not just about having position or having power to lead or having been appointed into a certain role. Just being born as a human being is a chance to lead yourself and to lead those around you. So thank you very much for this coffee talk. It has really been a great opportunity for me to brainstorm about how I live and why I am a leader, why I'm getting this opportunity while still young. It's a really great chance to change myself and to change others. So every young person should understand that it's in this journey, we have to love each other. We have to try doing the best we can. And we don't have just to keep on regretting on the faults that the past, our parents have been doing. or the things that we have been doing wrongly because we learned them wrongly, but we have to take the chance to change and to transform ourselves and others.
Thank you so much. Dearest Elizabeth.
Well, I don't think there's anything more to say. I just want to wish you all well and say, go do it, because, you know, there's nothing else really other than what you guys are doing, which is meditating and getting out there and doing what you can to bring about a new era in humanity, which is sorely needed. So thank you. I really wish you well.
Very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Just for the viewers, just for the viewers out there, Heartfulness magazine comes out every month. It is free online, very easy and accessible for everybody. So Andrew, Aloyce, please get it out there where you are